Right now, the physical world you think you're sitting in, um, it doesn't actually exist, at least not in the way you think it does.
Yeah, it's a deeply unsettling thought right off the bat.
I mean, take a look at your hand right now. By the time the light bouncing off your skin actually hits your retina, triggers an electrical impulse, and travels down your optic nerve, a fraction of a millisecond has passed.
Right. Your visual cortex has to decode all of that data before you even register it.
Exactly. So it is biologically impossible for you to experience the present moment. You are quite literally living in the past.
It's like your entire life is on a broadcast delay.
Yeah, and that's just the biological tip of the iceberg, you know? What if the very act of searching for your own personal truth in life is like wandering into the middle of the Sahara Desert with a surfboard, fully expecting to catch a wave?
That's a profound, incredibly disorienting premise. And honestly, it's deeply unsettling, but in the best way possible.
It really is. So welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to entirely deconstruct how you perceive reality, how you define truth, and your exact mechanical place in the universe.
And to do that, we are digging into two highly complex, intensely philosophical texts written by an author named Sam Coe.
Right. One was published in 2006 and the other in 2007. And let me tell you, these are not light reading at all.
No, not even close. They're basically forensic deconstructions of reality itself.
Okay, so let's unpack this because we have a massive amount of ground to cover today. We're going to start incredibly microscopic, right, looking at the exact mechanisms of how your brain processes a single beam of light or like a drop of water.
Yeah, and then from there, we zoom way out. We have to look at the macro level. We'll explore starlight, the illusion of time, and the terrifying delay of the cosmos.
Oh man, the starlight thing is just, it breaks my brain every time.
Right. But it all connects to the bigger picture. It leads us into this infinite, inescapable loop of physics that, according to these texts, completely defines human existence.
But, you know, before we can even begin to tackle a concept as grand as truth, we really have to understand how our own bodies are actively lying to us right now.
We have to look under the hood of human perception.
Exactly. So let's jump right into the 2007 text. Sam Coe frames this exploration using this really brilliant, slightly surreal device.
Yeah, he writes a dialogue between two non-existent minds.
Which is such a cool concept. Think of them as pure theoretical intellects floating in a void, debating the very nature of reality without any of the baggage of human emotion.
And the core premise they establish right off the bat is that absolutely everything we understand about our surroundings and ourselves comes exclusively through our physical senses.
Which, I mean, that sounds incredibly obvious on the surface, right? Like, obviously, we have eyes, ears, a nose, a tongue, skin.
Yeah, but the implications become staggering when you really break down the mechanics of it.
So the first non-existent mind points out that our senses are nothing more than biological receivers.
Right, they just pick up chaotic data. Light waves, sound waves, airborne chemicals, physical density.
And all of that raw, essentially meaningless wave data is sent to a central receiving station, the brain.
And we have to remember the environment the brain operates in. It is locked inside a dark, silent vault of bone.
Yes. Your brain has never seen sunlight. It has never heard a bird sing. It only receives chemical and electrical signals.
It sits in total darkness, just trying to interpret these incoming Morse code taps based on its own internal programming.
And what's fascinating here is how the text actually addresses that programming. Because, you know, we tend to think of the human brain as this perfectly engineered, pre-installed operating system.
Oh, absolutely. Like a computer that comes out of the box with Windows already flawlessly running.
Right. But Sam Coe argues entirely the opposite. He says there is no creator's hand micromanaging the software from behind the scenes.
The brain is not born with a perfect manual for reality. It has to build the manual itself.
Through pure experience.
Precisely. The text explicitly states that the brain formulates its own internal laws and theories through the relentless repetition of sensory events.
So it receives an input, it reacts, and then it records the outcome.
Yeah, and over time, it strings these outcomes together to create a rule book for how to process future inputs. It is entirely reactive.
I mean, this is exactly how we build machine learning algorithms today.
Oh, that's a perfect comparison.
Yeah, like if you boot up a fresh, self-training neural network, it has absolutely no idea what a cat is. It doesn't possess the concept of cat.
You have to feed it 10,000 random images first.
Exactly. And gradually, by finding patterns in the pixels, the algorithm creates its own internal mathematical rule for catness.
But here is where Samko poses a massive question regarding when this biological algorithm fails.
Right, I know exactly what you're getting at. I struggle with this next part. You're thinking about optical illusions.
Yes. Think about when you wake up in the middle of the night and you see a terrifying, hulking shadow in the corner of your bedroom.
Oh man, your heart rate spikes. You are absolutely certain there is an intruder in the house.
And then you turn on the lamp and it's literally just a pile of laundry thrown over a chair.
Right, and instinctively, what do we all say in that moment? We say, wow, my eyes played a trick on me. Or, my eyes deceived me.
But if my brain is the thing building the rule book and my brain is the thing making the error, aren't my eyes technically useless without it?
Yeah, why does Samko insist we vindicate the hardware? Why not blame the eye if it's just a dumb funnel?
That is the pivotal pushback the second mind in the text offers, and the first mind's answer completely shifts the paradigm.
Okay, lay it on us.
Saying my eyes lied is a defense mechanism. It's an ego-protecting excuse generated by the brain to avoid admitting its own incompetence.
Wait, so the brain is basically throwing the eye under the bus?
Exactly. The eye is merely a biological tool. It's a lens. It is fundamentally incapable of deceit or trickery because it doesn't possess the capacity to judge reality.
It just collects photons.
Right. An open window letting in the breeze doesn't lie about the temperature of the wind.
Okay, I love that analogy. So the eye doesn't have an agenda. It just says, hey, here are the light waves bouncing off the laundry basket.
Exactly. It delivered the data flawlessly. If there is a failure in reality perception, it is 100% a software crash.
The brain possessed an incomplete program.
Yes. It looked at the shadow data, referenced its self-built rule book of past experiences, and incorrectly categorized laundry as threat.
Because the software wasn't sophisticated enough to produce the correct result from that specific data set.
Exactly.
Man, here's where it gets really interesting, because Samko pushes this idea of the brain's reliance on sensory data into a terrifying bottleneck.
Yeah, he takes a step further.
Right. If our reality is entirely constructed by the brain interpreting whatever data it receives, what happens if a data stream is just missing?
The text asks us to imagine if we entirely lacked a specific sense, like sight.
It's a brilliant thought experiment. Like, how would a brain understand colors if the biological tool of the eye had never existed in human evolution?
It wouldn't. It couldn't.
Right. It wouldn't just be that the universe is dark. The very concept of light waves, the color blue, a sunset, a shadow, these concepts simply wouldn't exist in that brain's universe.
Because the data pipeline never existed to begin with.
The brain doesn't possess some magical, latent knowledge of the universe. It only knows what is piped into the vault.
And this raises an incredibly important question about the absolute limits of human existence.
Which is what?
Well, that the brain is constructing its highly curated, highly specific picture of the world by evaluating data only from the limited senses it happens to possess.
And we really only have 5 primary senses. Maybe a few more if you count like proprioception and balance.
Yeah, let's stick with the classic 5 for the sake of the text's argument. Those senses dictate the absolute hard boundaries of your reality.
They are the strict parameters of how your brain dissects you and your environment.
But what if the universe is broadcasting on 20 different channels, and human beings only have antennas for 5 of them?
Ugh, that is deeply unsettling. We look around and think we are seeing the whole universe, but we are only seeing the tiny slice of it that interacts with our specific biological sensors.
It makes you wonder what's standing right next to you that you just don't have the antenna for.
I mean, think about dark matter. Physicists tell us that dark matter and dark energy make up roughly 95% of the universe.
Right, and it's passing through us right now.
Literally right now.
Look.
But we can't see it, taste it, touch it, or hear it. As far as our brains are concerned, 95% of the universe doesn't exist.
Our reality is basically a rounding error.
Wow, yeah. And if our internal processing is this highly subjective, this limited by biology, and this prone to software errors,
it naturally raises an even larger problem about the external world itself. Are the physical things you're interacting with right now actually there?
Okay, this is where Samko takes us from the microscopic brain processing to the macroscopic universe.
Right, the second section of the deep dive.
Yeah, in the 2007 text, the second non-existent mind pushes back again, raising what we can call the problem of the void.
It says, essentially, hold on a minute. Even if our brains are flawed and our senses are limited, the data has to come from somewhere.
Exactly. Like, if I see a tree, there must be a physical object out there generating or reflecting the light waves. Information waves can't just materialize out of an empty void.
Which is the most logical defense of reality you can make. It's basic cause and effect.
But the first mind counters with a rebuttal that just completely shatters our concept of time and presence.
It states that just because a signal reaches our biological receivers, it does not mean the source of that signal is present at the same time or in the same place.
The time lag of the universe. We really need to dig into the star analogy Samko uses here because it perfectly illustrates this.
It's a classic physics example, but applied to epistemology.
Right. When you stand in your backyard on a clear night and look up at a star twinkling at a specific fixed point in the sky, your brain tells you there is a massive ball of burning gas right there.
But consciously, intellectually, you know the star is not currently there.
Because of the sheer vastness of space.
Huh.
Light takes time to travel. I mean, it's fast, right? 186,000 miles per second, but space is unimaginably huge.
Yeah, when you look at Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky, you are looking at light that left that star over 8 years ago.
And if you look at the Andromeda Galaxy, you are seeing light that is 2.5 million years old.
You are quite literally looking millions of years into the past.
And Samko emphasizes this to highlight a terrifying disconnect between existence and perception.
Because you're looking at a pinpoint of light, but that spot in the physical sky might actually be completely empty today.
Exactly. The star might have gone supernova and exploded a million years ago. Or it might have drifted trillions of miles away to occupy an entirely different space.
The profound point here is that it is fundamentally impossible for human beings to know what is occupying that space right now.
We cannot know where the star is right now.
The universe we look at every night is literally a graveyard of the past, a beautiful glowing echo.
Okay, but I know what people are thinking.
Yeah.
It's easy to dismiss that and say, sure, that's astrophysics, that's billions of miles away. But here on Earth, in my living room, things are happening right now.
But the physics doesn't change, does it? The scale just shrinks.
Exactly. The scale shrinks, but the delay remains absolute.
And this leads the text to a really melancholic conclusion about existence versus perception.
Which is that the existence of things as they are in our absence might be true. Like a tree falls in the forest, it exists.
Right. And our existence as we are in the absence of things is true, but they are fundamentally, permanently disconnected.
Because we never, ever experience the true now of the universe. Even right now, as you listen to my voice.
The sound waves take time to travel from the speaker to your ear.
Yeah, and the light bouncing off the person sitting across from you at the dinner table takes a fraction of a nanosecond to reach your eyes, and then your brain takes another fraction of a millisecond to process the data.
So you are never seeing that person exactly as they are in the present moment. You are seeing who they were a fraction of a second ago.
We are perpetually disconnected from the present. We are just biological machines processing delayed data archives.
So we are completely isolated.
We really are. We are locked in a dark room, trying to guess what is outside based on delayed historical signals sent through limited antennas.
Which logically leads Samko to the most extreme possibility.
Brace yourselves for this one.
What if those signals aren't coming from the physical universe at all? What if there is no star, past or present? What if there is no table?
And this is where the 2007 text leaps headfirst into the virtual reality hypothesis.
Because we lack complete information in the present moment, understanding the true nature of our existence is incredibly difficult, perhaps impossible.
So, if reality is just a series of electrical signals interpreted by a trapped brain, what is the source of the signals?
Samko uses such an incredibly relatable, everyday example to ground this terrifying idea.
Vivid dreams.
Yes, think about your own dreams for a second. When you are in a deeply vivid, lucid dream, your brain's software is fully convinced.
Oh, absolutely. The pavement you are running on feels hard. The wind feels cold.
If you are falling, the panic in your chest is a real, measurable physiological response.
And crucially, the text points out the disorientation of waking up.
Right. When you snap awake from a dream like that, it often takes your brain a few agonizing moments to process what is actually real.
The illusion was that perfect. The rendering engine of your mind built an entire flawless universe out of nothing but internal electrical noise.
So Samko poses the ultimate question. If you never wake up from that vivid dream, how do you know you are dreaming?
You wouldn't. You couldn't.
There'd be no contrasting baseline reality to compare it to.
And if we connect this dream analogy to the text idea of a digital reality, the implications are massive.
The author suggests that if a digital image, a scene, or an entire continuous life is fed to the brain via electronic pulses, that scene never actually existed in the physical world.
Right. Because if a digital pulse perfectly mimics the electrical data of a photon bouncing off a physical apple, the brain literally cannot tell the difference.
The data pipeline is identical.
The brain's software runs the exact same code, producing the exact same image of an apple. It interprets the simulation as absolute, unquestionable truth.
This leads the two non-existent minds in the dialogue to explore the inescapable consequence of this theory.
If our current visible life, the reality we are experiencing right now, is being fed to us digitally, if we are in fact living inside a visual, virtual simulation.
It would be utterly impossible for us to realize it.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here, because people will ask, why couldn't we figure it out?
Like in the movies.
Yeah. In all the sci-fi movies, like The Matrix, there are glitches. People figure it out and wake up. If we are in a simulation, wouldn't we feel a rendering error? Wouldn't our physical bodies eventually reject it?
Well, that assumes you have a physical body outside the simulation.
Oh.
Yeah, the text argues against that Hollywood trope entirely. Sam Coe's point is that we wouldn't be physical bodies lying in a vat of goo, hooked up to tubes, waiting to wake up.
We wouldn't have physical brains plugged into a wall.
No, we ourselves would be digital components.
Oh, your code.
Exactly. We would be variables generated by the simulation itself. Our consciousness, our memories, our sense of touch, all of it would be written into the software.
So you wouldn't have an outside physical perspective to wake up to, because the you that exists only exists within the parameters of the program.
You cannot observe the boundaries of the simulation if you are woven out of the simulation's fabric. You can't step outside the universe to look at it because you are the universe.
Man, that is heavy. And it leaves us in a deeply precarious, profoundly isolated position.
It really does.
According to the 2007 text, our reality might be a biological sensory delay. It might be a software error in our brain's training data, or it could be a literal digital simulation from which we can never wake up because we are native to the code.
Right.
If all of that is even remotely possible, how can human beings possibly search for anything resembling truth? How do you find truth in a mirage?
Which brings us perfectly to Sam Coe's earlier work.
Yes, the 2006 text.
Having established the extreme fragility of human perception in 2007, we look back at his 2006 text, which is simply titled Truth.
And here, he turns his forensic lens onto the philosophical concept that humanity has been obsessing over and fighting wars over for millennia.
And the way he tackles it is fascinating. The 2006 text starts by trying to define the undefinable, but it realizes it can't.
Yeah, think about how Sam Coe defines truth, or rather how he doesn't. He defines what it isn't. He defines truth purely by its opposites.
The text lays them out clearly. Truth is simply the opposite of error. It is the opposite of a lie, of falsehood, of unclearness, complexity, hiddenness, and cloudiness.
It's like defining cold as just the absence of heat, or darkness is the absence of light. We don't actually know what truth is in a positive, tangible sense.
No, we only recognize it as the absence of deception or confusion.
Which, I mean, that is an incredibly fragile foundation to build a civilization on.
And Sam Coe highlights this as humanity's oldest, most frustrating problem. The question, what is truth, is the alpha and omega of all human thought.
Right. Religion, science, philosophy, they're all just different methodologies trying to answer that single question.
But despite thousands of years of the greatest ancient and modern minds struggling with this, the text argues there is no final objective result.
We haven't found a universal answer.
No, we have only found self-satisfying answers.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
We find answers that comfort our specific cultural or individual anxieties, but those answers fail the moment they are subjected to universal scrutiny.
You know, I really want to push back on the modern cultural trend here, the whole concept of my truth or your truth. You hear it everywhere today. Speak your truth.
Right, it's very popular.
But the 2006 text points out a massive paradox with this. It calls it the relativity trap. Sam Coe explicitly states that truths are relative.
Therefore, absolute truth isn't something that can be universally exposed and identical for everyone.
Exactly. Because if an absolute truth existed for one person, it would inevitably become a lie, an error, or a falsehood for someone else.
And why is that? It goes right back to what we talked about in the 2007 text.
Biology. We all possess different biological software. We have different training data.
Right. If truth is just how our brain interprets the universe, and my brain has lived a completely different life than your brain, then my truth has to be different from yours.
But if a truth only applies to one person, is it really a truth? Or is it just an opinion dressed up in a tuxedo?
That is the crux of the relativity trap. A universal objective truth cannot exist across biologically and experientially subjective perspectives.
Which leads Samko to what I believe is the most haunting analogy in all of his work.
The text says that humanity's search for universal truth is exactly like looking for a sea in a desert.
It's such a powerful image. Wandering the dunes, dying of thirst, looking for the ocean.
And we really need to understand why this effort is fruitless, according to the text. Samko is very clear about this. It is not a matter of humans not looking hard enough.
Right. It's not that we haven't built a powerful enough telescope or a large enough particle accelerator. It's not a lack of effort or intelligence.
Exactly. It is a category error. It is the simple, tragic fact that humans are looking in a place where the object of their search does not and cannot exist.
No amount of effort, no amount of digging will manifest an ocean in the sand. You are in the wrong biome entirely.
It's like trying to find an internet Wi-Fi connection by digging a 10-foot hole in your backyard with a shovel.
Yes. You can dig forever. You can be the hardest working digger in the world, but you're using the wrong tool in the wrong medium.
So what is the wrong place? Where is this desert that humans keep blindly wandering into?
According to the text, the source of this wrong place, the desert itself, is the human being. We are the desert.
Which is such a massive pivot.
Yeah, because if the universe outside is delayed, subjective, and possibly simulated, the only logical place left to look is inward, right?
You'd think so.
I have to start with me. I have to find my personal truth. But Samko completely rejects that, too.
And this brings us to section 5 of our exploration, what we are calling the infinite loop of identity.
The text asserts that there is a fundamental fatal flaw in how we start our search for internal truth. And the flaw is starting with the concept of me.
The author writes that you cannot understand yourself or find the truths about yourself if you only start from yourself.
The perspective of I am me and not someone else is a total dead end.
It's too narrow. It's like trying to understand the plot of an epic 1,000-page novel by exclusively examining the ink chemistry of a single comma on page 400.
You are zooming in too far. You lose all context.
Exactly. To understand the truth of me, the text argues, I must understand my origins. I cannot exist in a vacuum. I am a product.
So I have to trace the thread back. And this begins an incredible, meticulously laid out chain of regression in the text.
This part of the 2006 text absolutely blew my mind.
It's like watching a camera zoom out from a single person, pulling back past the city, past the Earth, past the galaxy, all the way down to the subatomic level, but done entirely through philosophical and scientific logic.
We really need to walk through this chain step by step.
Yeah, and I really want to focus on the mechanisms here. Let's explain exactly how each step creates the next, because Samko literally shifts from sociology to biology to geography, and finally, down to hard physics.
Okay, let's do it. It starts with the self. As we said, to know my truth, I must understand my origins.
Okay, that makes sense. Where do I come from? I come from my parents.
Right. To understand origins, you have to understand the family that made you, the specific genetic and social unit.
Because the family is the first filter of reality. Your brain's early algorithm, that rule book we talked about earlier, is almost entirely written by watching how your family reacts to the world.
They teach you what is dangerous, what is good, what is true.
But a family doesn't exist in a vacuum either.
No. So to understand the family, you have to understand the society that shaped that family.
And let's look at the mechanism there. Why does society shape the family? Because human beings are vulnerable.
Right. A single family cannot survive a harsh winter or a predator attack alone.
So families band together for mutual survival, creating a society. And once you have a society, you have emergent rules. You have trade, you have hierarchy, you have shared defense. The society dictates how the family operates.
And society is governed by something even larger, more abstract. Culture. You must understand the culture.
Culture is the psychological glue of society. It's the art, the music, the taboos. It's the stories we tell ourselves to justify why our society is structured the way it is.
But what drives culture? Samko says it's beliefs. You have to understand the foundational beliefs of that culture.
Beliefs are the codified axioms, the religions, the philosophies, the core moral compass.
But beliefs don't just appear out of thin air. They aren't random. The text argues that beliefs are directly shaped by the environment, the physical surroundings that the culture had to survive in.
This is a huge leap, but it makes perfect historical sense. I mean, think about ancient mythologies.
Yeah, cultures that developed in volatile, dangerous environments with unpredictable weather like earthquakes or harsh deserts often developed beliefs in angry, vengeful gods that needed to be appeased.
Because their environment was hostile, so their beliefs reflected a hostile universe.
Conversely, cultures in stable, fertile environments often develop beliefs centered around harmony and predictable cycles. The geography dictates the mythology.
Exactly. The physical dictates the metaphysical, and the environment is just a localized expression of nature.
So to understand the localized environment, you have to understand nature as a whole planetary system. The water cycle, the tectonic plates, the climate.
And nature is entirely composed of matter, physical materials, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. We're stripping away the human element entirely now.
We are down to chemistry.
But matter isn't static. Matter doesn't just sit there. Matter is organized, destroyed, and reorganized by events.
Wait, are we talking about literal physics now?
Like the laws of thermodynamics.
Yes.
Yes, we started this chain looking for human identity, trying to find personal truth, and we've just dissolved into particle physics.
We have, and Samko makes this pivot brilliantly. What causes events? The text states that events are the result of imbalance, a loss of equilibrium in a system.
Let's explain that. Equilibrium is perfect balance. If everything in the universe was the exact same temperature and perfectly evenly distributed, nothing would ever happen.
It would be a dead, frozen universe.
Right. An event like a star forming, a wind blowing, a chemical reaction only happens because there is an imbalance. High pressure wants to move to low pressure. Heat wants to move to cold.
Exactly. Nature abhors an imbalance. It tries to correct it.
Yeah.
And the text lays out the mechanical consequences of this correction.
What causes imbalance?
Imbalance creates force.
The pressure difference creates a physical push. The force,
And force creates energy.
the capacity to do work, the kinetic output.
Energy creates change. The atoms move. The temperature shifts. The matter is reorganized.
And what does change create? The new state is never perfect. So change just creates a new imbalance,
Which creates force.
which creates energy.
Which creates change.
It's a loop. The paths literally end right here.
They turn into an infinite self-feeding loop of mechanical physics. As Samko lays it out, there is no other path to take.
We have drilled down to the absolute bottom of existence.
We followed the thread of human truth all the way down, and instead of finding a glowing, magical orb of universal meaning, we find a ceaseless, grinding engine of cause and effect.
Imbalance, force, energy change. Over and over again for eternity.
The philosophical implications of this are absolutely staggering.
It means that the ultimate truth of humanity isn't some grand moral statement. It's not a hidden spiritual secret, and it's not a poetic destiny written in the stars.
No, it is an endless mechanical loop of thermodynamics.
Our bodies, our civilizations, our deepest loves, and our worst fears are just temporary, highly complex ripples in a localized field of energy, reacting to an imbalance.
It completely decenters the human experience. It strips away our ego.
It tells us that our emotions, our societies, our desperate search for meaning, they're all downstream consequences of thermodynamic change.
We are just the universe trying to reach equilibrium and failing.
Which takes us right back to the very beginning of this deep dive. Look at the incredible, mind-bending path Samko's texts have taken us on today.
We started by looking inward, realizing that our own brains are essentially flawed software, trapped in the dark vault of our skulls.
Desperately interpreting limited, localized data just to build a workable, often inaccurate illusion of reality.
Then we looked outward, up at the stars, and acknowledged that our perception of the universe is just a delayed echo of a vanished past.
The speed of light ensures we are structurally isolated from the true now. We live in a ghost town.
We entertained the very real, logical possibility that our entire existence could be a digital pulse.
A virtual reality simulation from which we can never wake up because we aren't prisoners in the matrix. We are written into the code itself.
And finally, we ventured into the desert of truth. We realized that the self we hold so dear is just an illusionary starting point.
And that if you trace human identity all the way down the chain of regression, past culture, past environment, past matter, it evaporates into an inescapable, cold, infinite loop of energy and imbalance.
So tomorrow, when you look out your window at a beautiful sunrise, or when you find yourself in a heated argument with a friend about what is true or right,
Or when you are sitting quietly trying to find yourself and understand your purpose.
remember these texts. Remember that you are navigating the absolute limits of biological perception.
You are experiencing the delay of reality. You are, in every literal sense, interpreting the echo.
It's humbling.
It's maybe a little bit terrifying to realize how fragile our grip on reality is, but I also think it's deeply awe-inspiring.
It forces you to appreciate the sheer miraculous complexity of the illusion we call life. The fact that we can even ask these questions is incredible.
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over, building on everything we've just discussed from Samko's work.
Lay it on us.
If the entire chain of existence, from the raw, chaotic matter of the universe, all the way up to our complex human societies, our art, and our individual minds, is ultimately driven by this physics loop of imbalance creating force,
Yeah.
then perhaps our very desire to search for truth is just a psychological manifestation of that exact same physics loop.
Oh, wow.
What if that restless, deeply human feeling of not knowing, that existential anxiety that keeps you awake at night, that drives you to read philosophy or listen to a deep dive or ask why?
What if that feeling is simply the localized psychological imbalance required to generate the energy to keep our lives moving?
Exactly. What if we aren't actually meant to ever find the ocean in the desert? Because the thirst itself is the engine of our existence.
That is a fascinating way to frame it. The search is the mechanism.
Think about that next time you catch yourself searching for the truth. Keep questioning, keep exploring the illusion, and we'll see you on the next Deep Dive.